Hi and welcome to this video, which is the first in my new series of driving lesson videos. Today we're going to take a look at car controls and how to set a car up. Now this is normally the first topic that you cover on your first ever driving lesson. So even if you've never driven a car before, I'm going to talk through all of the controls of my car. This is a 2013 Ford Fiesta. Now of course there are many different types of car, there are many different models, different makes. But I'm going to talk through the one that I've got because although they're all different, they're all actually quite similar in the way that they work. So this is normally the first lesson that you do. When you first meet your driving instructor, they'll normally drive you somewhere quiet, not often a car park like this, with a quiet side road, and you'll start looking at the controls of the car. I do always warn my pupils that this is often the most boring driving lesson you ever have, and I'm sorry about that, but it is quite boring just sitting talking about car controls. There's no movement going on, there's no driving in this lesson, but it is one of the most important lessons, and I feel one of the most often overlooked lessons. If you jump into a car and just start driving straight away, how can you? You don't know what all the controls do, you don't know how to hold the wheel properly, you don't know which pedal's which, so it's very important that you take some time familiarising yourself with the controls of a car before you start moving. Now, if you watch my other videos, you'll know that I normally use multiple cameras. I've normally got one out the front, one in the car, one on the pedals, and sometimes more than that. But in this video, I'm just going to stick to using this one camera now. So I'm going to now take the camera off the windscreen and start talking you through the car controls. Okay, so the first control that we're going to look at is the handbrake, which is this lever here. Now, there are many different kinds of car you can get, as I mentioned before. Some handbrakes don't look like this, but most of them do. This is a fairly standard everyday handbrake. So when the handbrake is up, it's on. What the handbrake does, and the proper name by the way is the parking brake. What the parking brake actually does is it just holds your car still when you're parked. That's all it's really meant for. It does also help you get moving when you're moving off going up a hill, but really it's meant primarily for parking the car. So the way this works is there's a small wire, a little cable, that goes from the handbrake to the back two wheels on the car. Because of that, you should never ever pull the handbrake on when the car's moving, except in an emergency. Maybe if your brakes have failed and you've got to stop. But even then, don't pull it on when you're going very fast. If you pull the handbrake on when you're going fast, it only works, remember, on the back two wheels. So the back two wheels of the car would lock and you could skid around and end up in more danger than if you hadn't put the handbrake on. Anyway, I'm going to talk about those things more in later videos about advanced topics like brake failure. But for the moment, let's keep it quite simple. So the way you remove the handbrake is you grip it like this, you put your thumb on the button, you pull it up, push the button in and release it all the way down to the floor and take your hand away. The handbrake is now off. Now the handbrake can only really be on or off, so at the moment it's off. To put it back on, I press the button, put it up like that, let go, and the handbrake is back on. I hope you can see that well from the camera angle. So that's how you take the handbrake on and off. If you have trouble with this, because some people struggle to take it off and they're going like this and say, can't get it off, it's normally because people are trying to pull it down, they're just trying to push it down all the way. If you try and push it, of course it won't go. And then sometimes if you press the button in before you've pulled it up, if you notice there, if I put it up, the button goes in slightly. If I push the button in before I've pulled the handbrake up, it won't always move. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But if you have trouble with this, it's more about technique than power. So sometimes pupils are struggling like this with both hands saying, I can't get it off, it's too stiff. You don't need to be strong. With one finger there and one thumb, you can release the handbrake and apply it again, just like that. So if you're having trouble taking it off, it's normally because you're not using the right technique, not because you're not strong enough. So even like with one finger there, it should be quite easy to drop it and put it up again. When you pull the handbrake on, you should always press the button in like that and then raise it and then let go like that. If you do it like this is incorrect. Now a lot of people do that, and you probably heard there that sound like the handbrake making like a kind of creaking sound like this. That's the sound of your handbrake mechanism wearing down. Now okay, it does take a long time to wear down, but you don't want to be doing that too often. So whenever you pull the handbrake down or up, the button should be pressed in. Okay, so that's the handbrake covered. If I turn the camera around now slightly, these controls for the moment you don't need to know. you've got a headphone socket there, so I can plug in an MP3 player or something like that. That one is just an SD card that you plug in for your music, and you've got your cigarette lighter there, so for the moment we don't need to worry about those. Okay, now let's move on to looking at the gear stick. Okay, so here we have the gear stick. Like most cars, this car has 5 forward gears and 1 reverse gear. We are going to look at this in a lot more detail in a future video. That will be the next video, which is moving off. So I won't talk about this too much for now, but normally the way that you operate the gear stick is you hold it in your hand like that, you move it over and up to go to 1, you move it down to go to 2, and it's fairly self-explanatory, but when you're moving it's not quite so easy because it's easy to get the wrong gear. Many people struggle with the gears to begin with, so don't worry about that. So we will come back to this later on, but that is more for my next video than this one. The main thing to know about this, in this particular car the gears are excellent. In the Ford Fiesta they work really well, so you don't have to move it too hard. I often get pupils like this trying to really aggressively move it. You simply don't need to. You can just push it like that into 2, it just falls into place beautifully. So 2 to 3, easy, just falls into place. Really nice gears in this car. Not all cars are that good, but again it depends on the car that you've got. If you move in front of the gear stick, we've got my little smiley face man. He doesn't really have any function apart from just keeping me happy. So yeah, if ever you're having a bad lesson, sometimes you could look at him and just smile. And there's a spare no smoking sign under there. Further up we've got here credit card holders. You don't need to know about this stuff. Now again here we have the heater. I will go over this now, but again this I will go over in much more detail in the future, because when I do the show me tell me video, that's the questions that the examiner is going to ask you about before you start your driving test. I will go over this in more detail then. But quite simply over here you've got the speed of the heater. It won't work at the moment because the car's turned off, but that there is the heater, the speed. So 1 to 4, 4 is the fastest. Obviously the higher the number, the faster it goes. This one here just shows you where the heat's going to go. So towards your head and feet, towards your feet, the windscreen and feet, or just the windscreen. AC is air conditioning. That button there keeps the same air inside the car. That's very useful if you suffer from asthma or things like that. You can press that button, and this car has a pollen filter system, so it stops so much pollen getting into the car. And if you suffer with any breathing problems like I can sometimes, that helps quite a bit, helps you to breathe a bit better, keeps the air cleaner in the car, but it can become stale. It also helps demish your windows quicker. As you see there it says Max AXT, both those on together give the maximum effect from the air conditioning. This one you've got cold and hot and the white dial there. You can see the white dial on the outside of these shows you where it's set. At the moment I've got it there in the middle. That button there puts on the back heated window and the mirrors. Not every car has heated mirrors, most do but some don't. When it's a rectangular shape like that, that shows you it's talking about the back window. But when you press that on, it will come on for about 10 to 15 minutes before going off automatically. If ever you get the curved windscreen like that, that's talking about the front window. Now you don't often get a heated front window. Most Fords do, but I didn't have it put in because I just didn't. But if you do have a heated front window, you'll be there, the button to heat it up. But there are very few cars that have a heated front window. It's very handy to have. The reason I didn't have that, by the way, is that when you have a heated front window, you get all these lines on the front windscreen, thin black lines, the heating elements, and I just find it can be a little bit distracting. But if you want them, you can have that fitted. Let's move on now to these controls. I'm going to put the camera back here, and hopefully you'll still be able to see the controls there. You should be able to. So this one is your hazard lights, the one with the red warning triangle. Hazard lights are only really to be used if you break down, or if you're stuck in a dangerous position, like maybe you break down on the motorway on a hard shoulder. And later on in lessons we will be covering all these topics on motorways and everything you could want to know. So if you press that on, all of the indicators will come on. Press it on again, all of the indicators come off. This one here, very important, this is the door lock. If I press that now, it locks the doors. I recommend you never drive with your doors open, especially in a city like Birmingham. Now, over the years that I've been teaching, I've had 2 occasions where people have tried to steal my car, what's known as a carjacking. They often see learner driver cars as being vulnerable because they think, oh, it's a learner, I'll pull them out and they'll stall and I'll just drive off. Most driving instructors often have very new cars. I mean, I never have a car that's more than about a year old or 18 months old, so they're quite high value vehicles. Always have your doors locked. Now, I've never actually tested this, but in the event of a crash, if the airbags go off, I do believe that the doors automatically unlock. I can't confirm that, and obviously I don't want to go and crash my car to test that out. But yeah, people say, what if you have an accident, can you get out? Well, yeah, the doors should, or in some vehicles they do automatically unlock. I had a driving lesson once where I was sitting in the car just talking to people like I am now. And this was, I think, 2 years ago with a man called Michael who was a doctor. I think it was him anyway, it might be someone else, but I think it was him. And I remember this white van pulled up in front of us, sort of aggressively swerved, pulled up an angle in front of us, so the van was like that in front of my car. And he ran up to my car, ripped the door open and said, "Sorry mate, thought you were someone else." Now I don't know what was going on there, I don't know what the story was, whether he thought I was a different instructor. I'm guessing he'd been having lessons with someone who'd ripped him off or something, I don't know, and he was looking for this instructor. But yeah, drive with your doors locked. You are asking for trouble if you don't have your doors locked, especially in a city like Birmingham. These controls you don't need to know, they're just stereo controls, all those, the radio, all that stuff you don't need to know about, so I'll leave those. I'm going to pick up the camera again now. You've got the clock there, which you're not really going to need too much, but there it goes. If you want a lesson, you want to know the time, there you are. I'm not going to cover every single control because there are other things I could talk about, but these are just the main controls that you need to get moving. So I'm going to move the camera over now, and in front of you, you've now got the dials. So on the left, we have the rev counter, and on the right, we have the speedo. The speedo is quite obvious, that speaks for itself. Just move the camera a little bit there. Speedo obviously tells you how fast you're going, but what does the rev counter tell you? This rev counter here, where it says RPM, that's revolutions per minute times 1000. So that is simply a power meter. Speed and power, not the same thing. Again, we'll come back to this when we do the moving away. But this one here shows you how much power you've got. These numbers here do not relate to the gears. So for example, I've had pupils in the past who when the revs get to 2 they think they've got to be in second gear. It doesn't work like that. When you turn the engine on, the revs will go up to just below 1. When you accelerate away, the revs will go up and up and up. Now you notice when it gets to about 4.5 there, it goes to a red line. You might have heard the term redlining when you say, oh, the driver's redlining it. That means when you're pushing the car to the limit of what the engine can safely do. You should never get the revs even close to the red line. I would never rev more than about 3.5 at the most. Some cars go up to 8. Some, for example, Formula 1 cars go up to about 18 on the revs. But this is not a Formula 1 car, it's a Ford Fiesta. So yeah, the revs tell you how much power you've got, and we'll be looking at that again in the future. The other controls you've got, the fuel gauge at the bottom, you don't really need to think about that on driving lessons, but there it is. If I bring the camera back a little bit now, so I'm going to reposition the camera so I can talk more about the steering wheel and the other controls. Okay, and so here is the steering wheel. So the wheel of course makes the front wheels turn, and only the front wheels. When you reverse the car, it's still the front wheels that turn. And I mention that because many people that come to me think that when you go backwards, the back wheels turn. Well, they don't. It's only the front wheels that turn left and right. So normally you would hold the wheel like this, which is about 10 to 2, or the other popular position is 2:45. You can hold the wheel anywhere you feel comfortable. Just don't hold it down there, because if you go like that, you can't turn because your knees may be in the way. Also, try and avoid ever putting your hand inside the wheel. Now, why is that bad? Because you see a lot of drivers doing this. A lot of drivers steer like that with a hand in the wheel. But if you have a look here at the middle of the wheel, what is there here? Well, first of all, you've got the horn, so you could accidentally sound the horn. Now, let's just talk about this for a moment. The horn is to warn other people of your presence. You should not use the horn when the car is stationary or between the hours of 11:30 PM and 7 AM. So if you do sound the horn, then you're probably not going to get any trouble for it, but you're not supposed to. It is something that's against the Road Traffic Act. So you're not supposed to actually sound the horn in those hours. When you're still, you shouldn't sound the horn, so don't go honking away to your favourite music. It's only meant to warn people of your presence. But also here you see on the bottom it says airbag. So if you put your hand inside the wheel like that and turn, you crash, the airbag goes off, and believe me, that will break your arm. Now, I used to train, I still train in martial arts, and one of the martial arts I did was Aikido, where you learn to manipulate different joints. And believe me, it hurts a lot. If you go like that and that airbag goes off, your arm is not designed to go this way, it's meant to go that way. And believe me from experience, if you go like that, that is going to break your arm or break your elbow, no problem. So don't ever put your hand inside the wheel. The other problem is if you drive like this, crossing your hands on the wheel, sometimes people say, why do you have to steer like this? Why can't you just go like that? You can go like that and you don't fail test for doing that. However, it's not such a safe method. If I go like that and the airbag goes off, especially if I'm wearing a watch, imagine I've got a watch on there, I'm steering, airbag goes off, straight into my head with a watch. And I've spoken to police officers who have been to scenes of accidents where people have had a watch stuck in the forehead, or literally stuck right in the head. It sounds funny, I know, but it's not funny if you have a watch smash in your face. That's a horrible injury. So yeah, keep your hands outside the wheel whenever you can. The other controls you've got on here are the stereo controls. You don't need to know about those. These ones I hope you can see. If I turn the wheel like that, you've got the indicators. So you normally, in most cars, push them up to go right, down to go left. If I turn the key now, and I'll show you the key in a moment. If I turn the key there, I can show you the signals going right and left, like that. And the other controls now have lit up. You see how the rev counter's on 0. And I'll come back to that in a moment. So yeah, those are your indicators. Now in this particular car, which is a Ford Fiesta, and most Fords have this, some Volkswagens have it as well. If you indicate softly like this, if you push them down very softly, it flashes 3 times and goes off. If I do that again, right, 3 times and goes off. Very handy that for when you're driving on something like a dual carriageway, you need to change lanes, or if you come off a roundabout, you just want to flash a few times. But when you move away, make sure you don't do that. You must put it right up all the way so it stays on like that. And again, we'll come back to this on the moving away lesson. This is just an overview of the controls. Here as well, you've also got another control, which is the full beam, which is when you pull it towards you, that's what flashes the headlights. We're not going to again get into this just yet, but don't flash the headlights when you're driving. All that really means is I'm here. A lot of people think it means go, or oh look, he's letting me go, he's flashing me. The only official meaning flashing headlights has is it's saying I'm here. So you're not saying go, you're not saying you're giving them right away, you're simply saying I'm here, and that's all you are saying. If you drive in some countries, like for example I think Spain, they do it completely the way around. They flash the lights to say don't go. A lot of British tourists get injured in accidents there because they think, oh, that car's flashing me to go, and he's not, he's saying don't go. So don't flash your lights unless you've got a very good reason to do so. On the right here we have the wipers. So the wipers there, again raining today so I can show you. If you push it up, it goes on to speed 1. You can then alter this dial here, you can turn it down. The more down it is, the more gap there is between the wipes. The more up you have it, it's intermittent speed, so the higher up that is, there's now less gap between the wipes. You should wipe again, there you go, in a second. But if I turn that down, it takes longer to wipe. If you hold the button on the end, hold the button in on the end side, that would wash the windscreen like that. And again, this will all be done in the Show Me Tell Me videos. You can push the wipers up again to go faster, that's just permanently on, and again to go full speed. So you've got wipers off every now and then, on all the time, fast. In this car, if you pull the wiper down once, it will wipe once. Like that. It's good if you get like a splat on the windscreen, you can just wipe it and there you go. So those are the wipers. Down here you have the lights. So the lights are currently off, they're in position 0. So I'm going to turn the camera a little bit, I hope you can see that there. That should be okay there. So the lights are currently off. If you turn the light switch once to the right, that's your side lights. So those are just meant for when you're parking briefly. And again, I keep saying this, but we'll come back to this in future videos. You don't need to know much about the lights for now. For example, I don't even work evenings normally, so it's rare I ever get to drive in the dark. But I will be doing some evening videos for these video series. So those are your dim lights. They're just they're very dim at the front, so they're not on at the back. They're just very, very faint headlights. This is now your dipped lights, position 2. That's the position you have them in most of the time. So that's your front lights on normally, and the back lights on, the 2 red lights at the back of the car. So that's how you normally drive with the lights on. I'm not going to go over all the others for now. For example, you've got fog light there, and you've got another one. I might as well actually, I'll tell you now. So that one is a fog light. You turn that on, the rear fog lights. You have those on when the visibility is less, 100 metres or less. If it's 100 miles or less, personally, I wouldn't be driving. But there you go. If you get stuck in the fog, that's that. This one here confuses people. What this actually does, there's a number here that goes 0 to 4. I'm just going to move the camera a bit closer, so I'll be back in a moment when I've moved the camera. Okay, so this control here that I was talking about before, you see it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. What this does is it changes the level of your headlights. So if I have it on 0, the headlights are normal. This is meant for when you tow things like caravans. You probably wouldn't tow a caravan in a Ford Fiesta, but if you're towing something and the front of your car is raised because the caravan might be pulling the back of your car down, you can move this and the headlights simply alter. There's a little motor that raises or lowers the headlights. So imagine your headlights like that. You put a caravan on the back of the car and the front of the car goes up like that. So you move that number up and it dips your headlights more. So your headlights are nice and level. I never use that because I don't tow things in this car, but there you go if you need to know that. The next control is the key. Very important, this is one that a lot of people overlook when they start learning to drive. And I've mentioned this in my videos before. You see how the key on here, it says 0, 1, 2, 3. You must know about these key positions, it's important. Now when it's in 0, like this, I put the key in there. If the key won't turn, what do you need to do? Because sometimes you're trying to turn like that and it just won't turn. But what you do is you have to move the wheel left and right slightly like this as you turn the key. Because what position 1 does is it unlocks the steering wheel. So all that does is unlock the wheel. If I put that back now to 0, look at the way the wheel, or listen to the way the wheel's going to click. And now the wheel's locked. This is designed for when you're being towed. If your car's been towed by another vehicle, you don't want the wheel to be slipping around. So you lock it in that position. It's a good idea to always lock your wheels. So again, if your car does roll away in the daytime or night time, you won't go bouncing all over the road. You may still roll away, you might still lose your car, but you won't go flying all over the road. So I put the key in and I turn it to position 1. If you won't turn as you won't turn now, you must turn the wheel left and right slightly like this. I know you can't see the wheel that well there, but I'm turning the wheel left and right. As I do this, I'm wiggling the wheel, turn the key. I have seen several driving tests over the years where instructors haven't taught pupils that, and they've come out for the test, they can't get the car turned on, the test is abandoned and you look a complete idiot because you can't even get the car turned on. Now it's something a lot of instructors overlook, but you must practice is take the key out, turn the wheel, won't turn, put the key in. If the key won't turn, it often does, but if it doesn't, wiggle the wheel left and right, and then you go, the key turns, put it back to number 1. Position 2 puts all of the electrics on. So now the car's electrics have come on the screen. So if I now needed to open the windows or something like that, then I can. Position 3 will turn the car on. I'm not going to do that just for now because I don't need to do it for the moment. But when you go to position 3, that will turn on. You then let go of the key, it returns to position 2. But that will be coming up in a little bit when we look at how to set the car up. Okay, so next part of the controls we're going to look at are the pedals. So we're going to move the camera onto the pedals and we'll have a look at those. Okay, then so here are the pedals of the car. The pedals in the car go from right to left: accelerator, brake, clutch. So it's A, B, C. Now the accelerator of course makes your car accelerate. Most instructors call this a gas because it's simply easier to say gas. Notice how the gas pedal is further back than the others. So if ever you're not sure which pedal that you've got your right foot on, you can move it left, tap the side of the brake and think, oh yeah, I'm on the gas. If you move your foot left and you don't tap anything, you know you're on the brake. You should normally sit with your heel in front of the brake pedal because the most important pedal is the brake. That's the one that's going to stop you if you really need to stop. So what you do is you have your foot normally about there and you simply pivot it between the 2 pedals. The accelerator pedal feels a lot different to the brake, so it's quite hard to get them mixed up, but it does happen now and then. You only use your left foot for the clutch. Now this comes in later on again, but when you stop you need to be pressing the brake and the clutch together. So never brake with the left foot, because if you brake with the left foot you then can't get to the clutch like that. You'd be doing a really weird kind of braking. Even in an automatic car you should not brake with the left foot, it's your right foot does all the work. There's also an area here where my foot is, which is called the clutch rest area. That's where your foot rests when it's not on the clutch. Okay, so brake obviously slows your car down. Physically the brake pedal does not go down all the way, it only goes down about halfway like that, and then it releases again. So yeah, we're going to go over the braking a lot more when we start moving, so we'll come back to that. The clutch is one of the main pedals you have to go over. Now we're going to spend a good 20 hours at least talking about the clutch. Not now, don't worry, it's not going to be that boring. But there is going to be a long section on the clutch. In every video I do, we're going to talk about the clutch. I'm going to explain what it is, how it works. I'm going to do a whole video on just the clutch its own. That will probably be, I don't know, a 10, 20, 30 minute video just explaining the clutch. The clutch simply is a mechanism that connects the engine to the rest of your car. Now there might be a diagram on the screen now, because I'm going to put a diagram up and you'll see what I mean. Imagine there are two metal rods with a disc on the end of each one. On the left you've got the engine, on the right you've got your tyres. So when your clutch is down like this, like it's down on the diagram, the two plates come apart. The engine is now not connected to the rest of the car. When the clutch comes up all the way, then the two plates come together and connect, and that's how you make a car move off. That's why you have to have the clutch down to change gear, so you take the two plates away, put them back together. Again, this I will be explaining in the next video, which is about moving away, so we'll come back to that later on. But those are the pedals for now, and you operate the clutch obviously with your left foot. Try and always have your feet so they're not too far up. You want your toes to be just on the end of your toes, on just the top of the pedal. Try not to drive like this, because if you have your foot halfway up, you don't have any nerve endings in the middle of your foot, where in your toe sole you've got lots of nerve endings, so you can feel the pressure of the pedals going down and going back up. So you try not to drive with your toes as you were. And again, I've got really big feet, so I can't really do it wrong like that, but some people often do it wrong. Okay, so that's a quick look at the pedals. Okay, so that's the end of today's lesson. I hope you found that useful. Now I was going to look at setting the car up, but this video has gone on for longer than I expected, so I'll do that in the next video. We'll do setting up and moving away. So yeah, I hope you found that really useful. This is the first video in the series, so they will improve as I go along. I'm just currently testing out different camera angles. I maybe even will redo this video, I don't know. If you like the video, please do like it and subscribe to my channel, because I'll have to invest a lot of time and money into making these videos, and I'll only do it if there's enough interest. So please make sure you like the video. You've only got to click on like below. Please leave a comment. If you've got any questions, I'll try my best to get back to you. I don't always have a lot of spare time, but I will try my best. And please subscribe to my channel. If you do those things, it will help me get more popular, and I can continue to make these videos for free. So yeah, that's the end of your first driving lesson. So from that you'll have learned the controls of the car. You've familiarised yourself with most of them. There are some we haven't covered, and some we didn't go into full detail on. But that's a brief overview of the car controls. So hope you enjoyed that lesson. See you again soon for the next one.